Hi guys, this is Jake at Canadian Cutting Edge again. Thanks for stopping by and watching a review video with me. Today we've got the Enlan EL04 HCR13 MOV steel on this blade. Nice shape to it. I really like the shape of this blade and the handle. Very attracted to it when I bought it. I bought these knives almost 2 years ago, not quite. And I've had them for that long. And I did a review on how I fixed the axis lock on the EL04 MCT. That's Micarta handle scales. That's what the MCT stands for. But I've also had the G10 handle scale version all that time, and I haven't done an actual review of these. And so here we go. It's time for the full review. As I said, Micarta, G10. We've got tip down, right side only pocket clip on these, a big pocket clip. Leaves a little bit of knife exposed there. They're all exactly the same shape, except for, the Micarta one's a little bit thicker. It's got a more 3D kind of, handle with some, texture and shape to it. Whereas the G10 basically has got a couple milled sections, some lines in there. It's got a very rough texture on here. Not rough as in, it's going to scrape you at all, but it's not as fine. It usually has a fine checker kind of pattern to it. This one's a larger checker kind of pattern to it. That's probably the word for it. We've got a little sneak up choil here, so you can sneak up and hold it to do your delicate work. It's a high flat grind, saber grind, but a high flat, comes close to the spine, and a nice drop point. Did I mention it's HCR13 MOV steel, which is a reasonable Chinese budget steel. I put it, just below, right around the midpoint of the budget section, to be honest. Maybe a little bit below the midpoint, but right there in the middle of the budget section. HCR13 is okay. There's a whole lot of budget steels that are worse than HCR13, to be honest with you. There really is. And, there's a few budget steels that are better. Like Ganzo's 440C is quite a bit better. And so there you go. If you want to watch a review on these two knives, and I'll do them together, stick around because they're coming at you right now. Let's first talk about the differences. There's really only the one difference that I already mentioned, and that is the handle scales. G10 and Micarta. Get a little closer there. So this G10 is got, 4 little milled out lines there. Let's turn it away so that it can show up. There you go. I think you can see them with the light that way. You can see those 4, a short line, long line, short line, longer line. Not bad. Got a nice back swell here, and they just fit in kind of flat. The Micarta handle scales, on the other hand, you can see, even at this angle, you can see how it undulates in and out, in and out, in and out. And you can see that reflected in this pattern that it makes right here with, these sort of circles, the eyes that you can sort of have right there, and then those waves. So that's a green and black Micarta, and you can see the color going back and forth, and it helps the get a good grip on it. There's also lines going across this way, from starting up here and going down and across, and that's how it was cut. And back here, they're going across this way. Looks really good. You've got all Torx construction everywhere. Let's talk about the similarities now. All Torx construction everywhere, except for we've got proprietary pivot screws, and you can see that right there. They got 3 little holes in them, and there's a special tool that is out for that. I got mine at, I'll put a link to the store if they're still available, where I bought mine. It was like $18 US to buy this tool. Enlan has a number of knives that they need that tool, so I bought the tool for myself. GearBest has the Enlan tool that has the other shape. There's an Enlan tool for that that's about $5. I got that tool as well, but this 3-point tool with the 3 points, it's a little hard to make your own. You might want to use some small finishing nails, and you drill 3 holes and you put the nails through it, and then maybe epoxy them in place and you create your own tool. You could do that. Or you can try to find a small tool that has 2 points on it. There are some screwdriver kits, security screwdriver kits that have 2 points, but I don't know of any that are this small that would go into such small holes and still be spread apart that far. But you could do it with 2 and then turn it. Let's talk about what we like about this knife and what we don't like about this knife. Axis lock, that works pretty good. I had to repair the axis lock on this guy. What I don't like about these axis locks, okay, right here, you can see there's a notch right there, and then there's a notch on the top. And that's because you can get some kind of flat screwdriver in there to turn the head of that axis lock bar off. It makes it easy to put together and take apart, but it leaves sharp edges. So when you're grabbing it to disengage your knife, and you're pulling back on the axis lock, especially if you're wanting to do it with just one finger on one side, that's going to cut into your finger big time. Maybe with your thumb, you might be able to pull it back. See, I can pull it back, with my thumb, but it hurts and it digs in. Unlike the Ganzo axis locks, where, it's nice and smooth up top and it's much more comfortable to activate the lock. So I don't like that either. When I mentioned to one guy, he was complaining he was hurting his fingers a lot. And I said, if you're never ever going to take this apart and you're not going to, get some JB Weld. It's like metal putty. It's like an epoxy that's kind of thick. You have 2 parts, you put it together, and then you put it on top of there and squish it in place and mold it in place and everything. And it's going to harden into something that's hard enough to be strong metallic. My brother, he's a mechanic, and he didn't do this for a customer, but for his own vehicle. His engine block, there was a corner of his engine block where there was a threaded hole that broke off, which was holding an alternator mount. And so he used this putty and just put a small stick in place where the hole is supposed to be. Put this kind of putty over that whole area. And once it got a little bit harder, he took the stick out that it left the hole. And that hardened up to be strong enough that he went and tapped that hole, mounted that alternator. And, for at least 10 years afterwards, I don't know if he still has that car or not. It was a Dodge Daytona 500. Is that what the number is? Wow. Anyways, and he did it to that vehicle, to that engine block. And JB Weld held. It's a really good product. So you could put that over this and, and then you file it down smooth and, it wouldn't be hurting your fingers anymore. What a long story for a small thing. I like this big back, nice rounded. It helps fit into the palm of your hand really well. Good grip. Nice choil in here for your fingers. Good protection. If you're stabbed into something and it stops suddenly, your hand's not easily going to go over. That's good. I like this nice little choil there, sneak up choil. So you got, better use of doing fine, delicate tasks. A little bit easier to do it, I mean. Some nice jimping on the thumb riser there, just like 4 little jimps. Thumb studs on both sides, so left or right. It should be just as easy for a left-handed guy to do it as a right-handed guy. The Omni springs, that is the springs that hold the axis lock, they're a little bit strong on the Micarta one, a little bit softer on the G10 one. I like it better the way it is on the G10. And look at this, it's really smooth. I'll just pull back on the axis lock and the blade swings free. Beautiful. And yet, when it's locked, there's very little blade play. There is a tiny bit, to be honest with you. Just a tiny bit side to side, nothing up and down. This one's a little bit tighter, but it feels very much the same. Just a tiny bit of blade play. I don't really like that. And then, it doesn't slide that easily when it's disengaged. It's okay. Everything else is Torx. I like that. Nice sharp steel from the factory. Not bad. Nice shape to it. Looks good. Comfortable. You can, grab it a number of different ways and get a good grip on it. That's good. I can't really do an accurate cutting test because, I've had these for so long. But 8CR13 MOV is a good steel. It's easy to maintain and have it sharp enough to use, to cut. Not a problem at all. And, it's, a good, if I can hold that without cutting my fingers, it's a good steel, nice tips on these blades. Let's give you the dimensions of everything on here. Cutting edge, after the sharpener's choil here, 8.1 centimeters, 3.2 inches. Blade length from the end of the handle to the tip of the blade, 8.6 centimeters, 3.4 inches. The thickness of the blade steel, 3.2 millimeters, 0.126 inches. The thickness of the edge behind the grind, it's a little bit thick, 0.72 millimeters, which is 0.028 inches. Your handle length, 11.7 centimeters, 4.6 inches. The grip area is 9.2 centimeters, 3.6 inches. The thickness of the handle on this guy, the G10 one, is 1.28 centimeters, exactly half of an inch. And on the Micarta one, it's 1.6 centimeters, not counting the pocket clip, 1.67 centimeters, 0.66 inches. So just a bit thicker. The total length of this knife from end to end, tip to tip, 20.3 centimeters. It's right on 8 inches. How much do these things weigh? The Micarta one's a little heavier. 140 grams, 4.9 ounces, because there's very little skeletonizing. There is a tiny bit. The G10 one, 136 grams, 4.8 ounces. So 0.1 of an ounce difference. That's negligible. The price for these, the Micarta one at GearBest is $14.68 plus $3 shipping. That's $20.23 Canadian and $4 shipping. The G10 one is $13.77. It's a little bit cheaper, plus $3 shipping. That's US dollars. And in Canadian dollars, $18.98 and $4.19 shipping. If you buy multiple things, it starts knocking down the price per unit for shipping. So for instance, if you were to buy 2 of these, it would end up being, in Canadian, about $2 per knife shipping. This one would be like $1.50 per knife. So it starts coming down if you add more stuff. The fit and finish, pretty good. The axis lock needed repair on this guy. I need to tell you that. Remember that from the factory. It was not working very well. If I didn't know how to fix it, if I wasn't able to fix it, I would have called it a lemon. I would have wanted to return it. I would have been angry. But I could fix it. It's a budget knife to start with. I like the looks of the Micarta really good, really well. I like the looks of the Micarta a lot. It looks really sharp. It feels better in the hand than the G10 version as well. But it's got little fibers. Because it's, the linen Micarta, you get little fibers at the edges of where it's milled out. And, they just stick out every once in a while. And it looks kind of just slightly messy a little bit. Like along this edge here where the Micarta meets the handle scales, you can just sort of see the edge there. It just looks a little bit messy. It isn't messy. It's nice and smooth, but it just looks like it's a little bit off. And that's because of the Micarta. And the G10 feels good in the hand too. It would be more comfortable for a slightly smaller hand than this one. This one requires a slightly bigger hand than the G10. I like the thumb ramp on these. I like the handles. They feel good. I mentioned that. The blade shape is really, really good for cutting and really effective. Nice hollow grind. Your thumb studs are far enough back so that when you're slicing through stuff, it doesn't get caught on the thumb stud. Very often when you're slicing through something, the thumb studs are too far ahead. Like maybe they're up here where the word Enlan is, and you're cutting through it and it'll get stuck on there and you won't be able to slice all the way through. I hate when that happens. This one's got the thumb studs far back. Really, really good that way. The cons, proprietary screws on the pivots. That's a no-no, guys. Manufacturers stop making proprietary screws unless you give the tools for free with the knife. The axis locks, they're sharp on the edges there for the fingers. That's a no-no. Stop making stuff that hurts people when they use it. And, it needs more skeletonizing to be lighter. That's the pros and the cons. That's the knife. I'm not going to do any cutting tests for you. You know how 8CR13 MOV cuts, and if you don't, hey, it cuts like a knife. There you go. I like these knives. They're worth it for the money, as long as you don't end up getting stuck with one that has a problem. So there you go. That's the knife. If you're not yet a subscriber, please subscribe. Share with your friends about this channel. Click the thumbs up for the video. Comment. Ask your questions. Remember, I might not be able to answer your questions in a timely fashion this summer. I'm going camping with my wife for a week and a half, and then we're going to Southern Ontario, over 3,000 kilometers away, to visit my family. My mother is, I hate to say it, she's deathly ill, and she's got a bad cancer. And so we're going to go visit my mother and spend most of the summer there, and we'll be back at the end of August. And in September, my channel is going to be going 100% again. So until then, we're just going to be going a little bit slower, but we will keep going. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for liking, subscribing, all that good stuff. And remember, always cut towards your chum. Old English word for your friend. Cut towards your chum and not your thumb.